Hey everybody, Rabbi Randy here again at CRC. We just finished with a synagogue CRC board meeting, which was really good. A lot of good things happening, good feeling. The leadership of this congregation really cares, and it's always kind of inspiring to be part of that end of the congregational world, the business kind of end, really, because it's all about caring for the sustainability of CRC. But I'm back here with another Omer message. We're getting there. Tonight is good. Well, tomorrow/tonight is day 47. As you probably know by now, if you've been watching these videos, or you already knew, we count 49 days. So Sunday will be the 49th day, Saturday night to Sunday, and then Sunday night is Shavuot. So the 50th day doesn't get counted because it's the holiday that we've been counting towards. So I thought I would spend a little time before we do the count. It's hard for me. I said the count, and this is sort of how my hyperlink brain works. I thought about Sesame Street, and I think there was like a vampire, the Count, who would help kids with their counting. So anyway, I digress. So Shavuot. So that's what we've been doing. We've been counting from the second day of Passover until Shavuos. Shavuot is the Hebrew way to say it. Shavuos is the Yiddish, kind of Ashkenazic way, but it's the same deal, it's the same holiday. Shavuot literally means weeks. Shavua is week. That's why we say Shavua Tov after Havdalah, to say have a good week. But Shavuot is weeks, and of course it's referring to the 7 weeks. 7 weeks times 7 days a week is 49. Those are the days in between Passover and Shavuot. According to our tradition and the traditional narrative, it was 50 days between the escape from Egypt and arriving at Mount Sinai to receive the 10 Commandments. And so 7 weeks in between those two holidays. They're obviously viscerally connected because, of course, you had to escape from Egypt in order to get to Mount Sinai. You had to, leave slavery before you can get the 10 Commandments and the Torah. I always say it's about freedom, Passover, and Shavuot responsibility, because the 10 Commandments and the Torah gives us these responsibilities, especially ethical responsibilities. And you can't really have one without the other. So they're linked. That's why we count in between them. So that's the narrative overlay, right? On Shavuot is receiving the 10 Commandments. That's why traditionally the 10 Commandments are chanted on Shavuot. But also there's an agricultural overlay, which there are for all of the 3 pilgrimage holidays. Probably originally were harvest agricultural festivals that then, were connected to the Torah narrative. So what are the agricultural, sort of roots, so to speak, behind Shavuot? Well, we could ask our wonderful Mitzvah Farm team, but basically Shavuot is the time where farmers would see the first signs that their harvest that they planted in the spring, i.e. Passover, is starting to grow. The first fruits. It's called the Festival of First Fruits as well, Bikurim. So Shavuot is both. It's the first fruits of the harvest, and it's also arriving at Mount Sinai, receiving the 10 Commandments, which sort of is symbolic for the entire Torah. So there you have it. What do we do on Shavuot? Well, it's a great kind of there's a great ritual that is, especially with Erev Shavuot, the night of Shavuos, which this year is this Sunday night. I believe it's the last day of May. I'm going to check my calendar. Yes. No, I'm sorry. Sunday's June 1st. Glad I checked. Last day of May must be Shabbat, Saturday. Okay. So June 1st is Sunday. Love that we have everything we need on these phones. Well, not everything, but a lot of things. So Sunday, June 1st, that at sunset is Shavuot, Erev Shavuot. And the way it's celebrated in many communities is to stay up late and study Torah, kind of in replication of the story that tells us that, there was this sort of all these nighttime, waiting at the mountain for Moses to come down and hand down the law, the tablets. So in recognition of that, there are these late night studies. And when I lived in Israel, I'll just never forget this. Um, Amy and I, this was when I was a rabbinical student. So back in 1996, Shavuot, we had a late night study at a study place, a kind of a, what do you call, a pluralistic Jewish study center called Pardes. And we studied all night with a woman named Aviva Zorenberg, who is a great Torah scholar, and she's written a number of books. I think there's one on Genesis and one on Exodus that brings many sources to interpret the Torah portions, ancient ones and contemporary ones. It's quite a, and I don't know what her plan is for the rest of the books of Torah, but the Genesis and Exodus are lovely, worth seeking out. Aviva Zornberg. Anyway, stayed up all night with Aviva Zornberg, and then right around sunrise, we walked over to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, to observe Shavuot. And like all the pilgrimage holidays, Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot, floods of people come to the Kotel, like, tens of thousands. Well, there we were, it's kind of liberal Jews, students from the Reform Seminary and the Conservative Seminary, and we decided that we were going to have a, all gender shachari, not at the wall, but kind of in the plaza. And this has become quite, a movement since then. But I think we were the first, and it was a horrible scene. We got so there we were, men and women, and that's frowned upon at the wall. I think that's we were in the men's section, and we got surrounded by. No, we were just in the plaza. We got surrounded by, unfortunately, these young yeshiva, mostly American, Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox students, and they were yelling at us and calling us names and throwing things. There was a kerfuffle, and we had to be escorted out by the police because they said they were concerned for our safety. And since then, there's this whole movement, the women at the wall, and there's been lots of controversy since then. But I'm pretty sure we were either the first or the second group to try that. And that's a bigger story than I have time for this video. But I will say it was quite a way to leave Israel, because our year was up, and I believe it was either that day or probably the next day, Amy and I flew back home. And it was also the day of the election. Crazy memories when Bibi Netanyahu was first elected prime minister. It was a heartbreak of an election for many of us. His opponent was Shimon Peres, who was a peacenik. Anyway, long time ago. So late night study, that's where I was. And we've been doing this amazing program for 20 more years. 3 congregations that are kind of on the east side of St. Louis, but representing all 3 major denominations of Judaism, which is pretty remarkable. CRC, Reformed Congregation, Korina, Conservative, and Base Abraham, Orthodox. And for many, many, many years, we've gotten together, and teachers and rabbis from all 3 congregations teach late into the night. So I want to make sure everyone knows the schedule if you want to kind of participate in Shavuot. So let's see. Sorry, I don't like looking at my phone while I do this, but it's for a good cause. Okay, yeah, everything starts at 10 p.m. So for you late night people, 10 p.m. at Korina, and what'll happen is there'll be an opening kind of session at 10:15. There will be multiple options, kind of breakout classes. You'll have a schedule with teachers. I know Rabbi Daniel's teaching. I know Becky, who is CRC staff, who's a rabbinical student, is teaching. I think there's one other CRC person who's teaching, and it's escaping me. I'm sorry. Um, and then there's a cheesecake break, which is also traditional for Shavuot because of dairy. So, like, the first signs of the harvest were wheat. Wheat equals dairy, and therefore dairy equals cheesecake. Of course. Um, I think there's a vegan alternative. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, cheesecake break at 11, and then there's a second session at 11:15 and a third session at 12:15. And each session has multiple options. It all ends at 1. I have to tell you, that's changed. It used to end around 3 or 4. As a late night person, it makes me sad. A lot of late night things kind of transitioned to earlier after COVID, or during/after COVID. So maybe someday we'll get back to it. But right now, 1 o'clock, it starts at 10, ends at 1. You don't have to stay for the whole thing. If you want to do one session, have a piece of cheesecake and leave, you can do that, or you can stay till the end. But Corina, is right there in the center of Clayton on Maryland. Let's see. You can look it up. Corina. Shoot. I should have been more prepared, but you can look it up. Corina, it's on Maryland. It's on Maryland and Hanley. And if you've never been to Corina before, it's nice to see a different synagogue. And that's, I guess, Shavuot, the festival of weeks. And as I said, it's 49 days. We're at day 47. Tomorrow night, we won't have a video because you can tune in to Friday night services where I will be there and I will lead the blessing and count day 48. And then I'm going to be one more special place. For 49. So I'm not gonna give it away, but like I'm trying to remember really quickly. We did a couple from Hebrew school. We did one just the other night from our senior send off. I feel like I had one other one that was live from the campfire. Yeah, Lag BaOmer. So this is going to be a really interesting place, I think, that I'm going to try to do the Omer video from on Saturday night. And then Sunday night is Shavuot. Let's see. This week has been Malchut, sovereignty, and the Kabbalistic quality for the day that weaves in with Malchut is Chod. And Chod is defined as humility. That's an easy one. Humility within sovereignty. So clearly, if you're going to be a leader in any kind of circumstance, you have to have humility. One of our members at CRC, who's about to turn 102, called me to ask me how she could help with tornado relief. Talk about making you humble. All right, here's the bracha, here's the blessing. This has been really nice. I know Rabbi Karen and Rabbi Daniel feel the same way. So, we'll do it again next year. I'll have to think of different things to say. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat ha'omer. Blessed is the Holy One whose presence fills creation, where we learn the source of mitzvahs, of good deeds, of rituals and traditions that are sacred, that fill our lives with meaning and purpose and dignity, including this mitzvah of counting day by day by day, between Passover and Shavuot, spring and summer. It's been really just awesome. This being the 47th day of our counting period. Amen. And good night, Lila Tov, and we'll see you tomorrow night from services.